Hello guys and welcome back. We are back. The three of us are back in action to Let's Talk with Matt and Johnny. It's been a long old time. We took a little break because we were all busy doing our own little things. But now we are back as a team and very happy to be back. And lads, very happy to see both of your faces.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've missed my voice and my face as well.
It's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah.
It's been a while. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about today is the last 11 to 12 months pre-COVID and during COVID. Just having a little recap of where we are all in our lives, where we see the future going, and also where we see these podcasts going as well. Bringing up different subjects that we can talk about, and hopefully we can help you as well. So lads, we're going to recap on the last 11 months. I mean, this time last year we were thinking, oh, we're going to go into a pandemic. What is COVID? No one knew what COVID was. I knew that this time last year I was in Dubai and my mum and dad texted me going, you need to come home. And when you do, you've got to get it straight onto the hand sanitizer wipes and the bacteria wipes. And I was like, what are you on about? Because I wasn't watching the news. And then literally landed straight into the shop. I've still got them here. 5 hand gels and bacterial wipes straight into work, cleaning them down. No one knew what COVID was. And then going into March, we're going into a lockdown. And here we are now, still in a lockdown.
Yeah.
So Matt, we'll start off with you, mate. How are you first? Because I feel like I haven't seen you for ages.
It's all sending WhatsApp messages and things like that, and having a laugh through that. It helps obviously, but yeah, I haven't actually seen you boys for a long time, and it's brought a smile to my face just from today by doing this. So that's good. But yeah, exactly that, Johnny. We started this podcast in March last year. Yeah. And obviously we did it for us to kind of keep in contact, and it was it's a great thing that we kept in contact every week for a good solid 6 months, wasn't it really? And then we kind of took a bit of a break towards the end of the year where we kind of focused on our work and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, as you say, Johnny, like this time last year, it was like, this is my kind of around my birthday. So, we were went out for dinner, had a nice steak dinner with family and was able to go out for drinks with friends and things like that. And then literally 3-4 weeks later, we're all in a national lockdown. And yeah, it's, and I think everybody, we can all agree ourselves, but again, people listening and watching us as well will all agree that you've had some pretty major ups and downs over this last year, where there's times where you actually think, yeah, this is not so bad. This is okay. There's the initial lockdown that we went in and stuff, and we were kind of a bit like, yeah, that's fine. We're going to keep active and we're going to keep, like doing your classes, Johnny, and we, all these different things and various different things, kind of trying to keep your mind busy and all of that. And initially at first, we're kind of all a bit naive, really. We're kind of thinking, oh, it'll only last a little bit of time and it's not too bad and everything else. But then again, there's, then now, as you say, we're in our, 3rd lockdown now after all of this. And again, it's one of those things. It's kind of the uncertainty of how long this is going to be, because we could say, we were told initially, around Christmas time, but by this week we would have an answer as to when we're going to come out of it. Nothing. The time has come and gone, and we're kind of a bit like, oh, maybe it might be March now. So it's that kind of uncertainty, really, of what we see in the future. But, like I say, there's times where it's, we've had the ups and downs. I mean, speaking to both of you guys individually and obviously together in the podcast, we can all kind of agree to that. So.
Just a little button on that, ups and downs. There's been a major up for a certain individual in this group. During Christmas, Matt Seymour down on one knee and asked Jess to marry him. So everyone listening, I want to give him a massive congratulations. I was going to mention this at the beginning with bridal music and everything. But the speakers ran out of battery. So congratulations, mate. That's amazing. A massive positive bit of news, especially, was it Christmas Day that you did it? Yeah, so waking up for Christmas Day, and then the boy is down on one knee. I never knew he could get down on one knee. Getting that old.
Had to do a few stretches, mate. But yeah, no, it was one of those things that I was planning for a while, and we went away. Thankfully, we had a bit of time that we went away to the Isle of Wight before, and just kind of in between lockdowns, it just kind of worked nicely that we were able to get away. And we just went to the Isle of Wight. I thought about doing it there, but I didn't have everything sorted, didn't have the ring and stuff. So I was like, look, I'm gonna get all that sorted, and then it was all planned that we were obviously at the time, that when I was initially thinking about it, there was a time where you had like 5 days you were able to go and see, your kind of very small family bubbles and stuff. So you're going to see your family and stuff. So I was going to be able to kind of celebrate, and actually go and see people and do that. But yeah, unfortunately that changed. It was just the two of us. So, but it was, it was one of those things that I wanted to do for a little while. But yeah, it was something that I thought, right, Christmas Day is going to be the day. Try and hopefully brighten up our Christmas, but also everybody else celebrating. We've got some very nice cards and gifts and everything else. So thank you for that, and for people.
Right, I'm just hoping I'm bringing up the conversation of when's the stag do, mate? Where we go?
Exactly, that's exactly what I was about to say.
Don't give a shit about the wedding.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's all the lead up, isn't it? Really, it's. But yeah, I think all of that type of stuff. Again, it's the uncertainty, isn't it? All these people that have organised weddings, in throughout 2020. Obviously having to move them all back into this year, and then potentially even the ones that are this year, obviously moving to later in the year, or maybe even moving to next year. So it's it's just that kind of uncertainty. So at the moment we haven't really organised anything or sorted anything out. We probably will need to, but sooner rather than later. But yeah, we'll definitely make sure that we're all safe and we can have a load of us, 20 odd of us, that we can all go out and have a good time and travel and go somewhere and go into some sleepy bars and drink ourselves silly and have a bit of fun and everything else. So we'll make sure that we can do that before the wedding, because that's the thing. Unfortunately, some of these people that have got married. I say unfortunately have got married in that time. I shouldn't stop there, but they have they haven't had that opportunity. They couldn't go and see their friends and couldn't go and have that time. And the wedding itself was, you could only have up to 15 people and, things like that. It's, and we're not necessarily in any rush to kind of, sort it out, but yeah, it's those things. And again, it's like I say, it's people have had it a lot worse than us. So yeah, thank you, man. Appreciate it.
That was good. Sanj.
Madness. Madness. I mean, do you know what? I was on my phone the other day and I had a notification pop up. Has anyone got the Time Hop app?
Yeah.
A time hop, a notification come up, and I was in Austin, Texas this time last year shooting rifles down a gun range. What a time hop to come up at. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, what was it, February, like early February last year. So it's just seeing that, and it'd be interesting. And I've seen a lot of people on social media do their time hops from this time last year, and they're out for dinners and all this stuff. It'd be interesting to see what happens 6 months down the line when those time hops start coming out, and we're in a different place and we're in a different setting with people or whatever. I don't know, wherever we might be. I just think it'll be very, very interesting. I think in terms of highs and lows, it's interesting. I was thinking about this earlier before we jumped on this call. There's obviously a lot of negativity, right, for obvious reasons. But if you start seeing the odd success story or love story that's come out of COVID, or someone has had a massive positive impact in their life through because of COVID, it's honestly a game changer. And like that in itself just makes you smile. Like, I was watching a program the other day, like dating in lockdown. Like, people have actually proposed because they met someone in lockdown, they moved in with them, and they met them on a walk. Like, you wouldn't do that on a dating app, right. They actually met them on a walk. And these are people that, might be 75 years old. I'm not being funny, but there's a lot of positives to come out of what's happened with everyone. So I think everyone kind of just needs to bear that in mind, that it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, obviously it has been tough, but for me personally, like I've had a whirlwind of a year. I think everything's changed for me in a year. Everything. Like I couldn't stress that more, but that was down to me. I actually made a list of all the things I've achieved in 2020, and it was pretty much the most amount of things I've achieved in my life in 1 year. So when you think about it like that, perspective, it's like,
yeah,
it blows your mind. It blows your mind.
You basically just stripped things back and gone back to basics.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of because you've been forced to.
Yeah.
And then it forces you to do other things.
Now, do you reckon that you will still carry on with those basics, or carry on with, like, you know, the little things like meeting up with someone and going to the pub and having a beer? Now, I don't know about you, but for my first pint going to the pub, it's going to be like the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Whereas going down the pub, usually you're like, yeah, I'm going down the pub. You know, do you know what I mean? The little things will definitely mean more than pre-COVID for me.
Right, I'm absolutely clucking to go down the pub and just see some power. The thing is as well, I live alone, which I don't. I'm grateful that I live here, but at the same time, just not having like a human interaction, I'm absolutely clucking to get down a pub, or even just to go see mates and just have a couple of beers.
Yeah,
like just do something in a different setting. I'm absolutely clucking for it. So yeah, God,
it's exactly that. And the thing is, like I say, you know, we took a lot of things for granted previously, you know, where like I said, Johnny, you know, some of the things just going down, you know, to the pub or going to a restaurant or doing whatever, all of that we took for granted. You kind of just thought, yeah, I can pop down, or when people would invite you and you'd be like, I just feel a bit tired, so you know.
Oh, you wouldn't do that now, would you? You'd be like,
do it now.
Yep,
You'd be like, 100%, I'm already here, you know.
I'm absolutely shattered, but I'm here.
Exactly. I slept there last night waiting for you.
You know, and the thing is, that's what's good in a way, that hopefully by the time we get all through this and everyone's vaccinated and all of that kind of stuff, hopefully all of that, you know, will be coming very, very soon for everybody. But, you know, all of that, again, just supporting that kind of hospitality industry and everything else, because it's, you know, that's what we kind of took all that for granted before. And like I say, it's just being able to go there and do it. But also what you said a little bit earlier, Johnny, is that it is going to be a shock when we go to these places, and it is going to be busy. You know, it's going to be, these places are going to be packed. You know, you've got to think that, you know, going to a concert or going to a nightclub, I'm too old now that, you know, going to a nightclub, but still it's, you know, things like that, being in a very, very crowded area where before you kind of just took it as that was the environment, right? But then you've spent a whole year of literally being in the vicinity of your household, literally, you know, so you now going into a concert or something where there's a load of people jumping around, a load of people kind of all bumping into you, or especially when you're in a nightclub, you're squeezing past people and all this kind of stuff. And everyone going absolutely mental because they haven't had a proper drink from a club or a bar or whatever in so long, that they're now just going to drink as much as they want, you know, as much as they can. It's going to be a very strange environment, isn't it? It's going to be quite different. So
can you imagine, like, when we obviously do get released back into the wild, like the longer lasting effects, right? And I was thinking about this the other day. What if someone coughs next to you? You're automatically going to think, like, your sense of awareness is going to be like at its peak. Like, if someone starts coughing next to you, even it might be absolutely nothing. Like, everyone gets a little bit of a sore throat and just needs a cough or whatever, but you could imagine, I could imagine if I'm standing next to someone in a queue in a bar or whatever, and I'm just like, okay, they've just coughed, sort of thing. You're like, all of these things, you know, I think we're just going to have to adjust. I have no idea how we're going to adjust to it. And what I do know is it's going to take time. Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one.
Yeah, it is, and it will take a lot of time to adjust. You know, even if we, like I say, we're all kind of vaccinated and everything else, but actually they've got to be careful in a way that it's not just, okay, open up the floodgates, you know, and everyone can just go and do whatever you want, whatever you did before, do it again. You know, it's got to very much be a staggered thing, because like I say, you know, you're just going to get people going absolutely mental, aren't you?
Yeah. For both of you, Johnny, we'll ask you first, what's the single biggest thing that's been a positive experience during this whole year or 11 months?
being able to adapt my business.
Yeah, I remember us speaking about that right from the outset.
When I got invited to a podcast last night, Wednesday night, and I was talking about, all I said to them was, when the lockdown came in March, I absolutely shit myself. But then if I can get through this whole pandemic and come out the other end, then I've got nothing to worry about. I practically can fight anything, because I would say this lockdown has been the toughest from like being a business owner, been the toughest out of every lockdown. I've probably had more negative days than I ever have in my life, really. But the positive is that I've also built an online community, which I would never have built an online community because I was never a virtual trainer. So business has took a great effect. The other positive is spending more time with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
I've never spent so much time with my girlfriend in my life, and it's been fantastic, absolutely brilliant. We both work long hours like other couples, but it's definitely brought us nice and tight. Absolutely loved it, to be fair. And also, it's going to sound stupid, but the walks, finding different areas that I probably would never have gone out for a walk at the weekend because I'll be out socialising with mates or family, going out for dinners. And sort of a walk would be like last resort if like there's nothing to do on a Sunday. So finding different areas, it sounds stupid, and it's little things obviously, but just different areas to walk and finding different areas in the area, which has been a big positive for me, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think, pretty much the same points, really. I think that actually being able to, be at home and, adapt, for me, I was obviously going into like an office and stuff. Like for me, working from home, having the flexibility to be able to work from home, being able to have this office and work from home, and being able to adapt to that. Because initially it was, we didn't know how long it was going to last for. So it was always thinking, it's only going to be a couple of months and we'll go back to the main office and stuff and go from there. But actually being able to work remotely and actually be trusted to work remotely, because I think actually, realistically, a lot of businesses before probably would have frowned upon people working from home until now. Yeah. Where actually it's kind of saying it's the companies are now looking at their employees and going, you're actually just as productive working from home than you are being in the office. So I know that there's a lot of businesses that have actually think, do we need to spend all this money on a big office and everything else? But actually, we can just make sure that we support our staff from working from home and give them everything that they can to do that. Obviously, I'm lucky that I have an office that I can work from. Not everybody has that situation. You might have kids and you work from the dining room table, and it's very, very different. So there is obviously that. But again, other positives for me, again, yes, just spending time with my girlfriend or fiance, but yeah, just it's being able to do that and enjoy each other's time, and also just have a bit of time just to kind of understand what you want to do in the house and kind of enjoy that. And again, exploring the local area. We moved into this house in August of 2019. So again, we didn't really know the area that well. I mean, I grew up not too far away, but didn't really know the area that well. But yeah, just being able to go out and just be active elsewhere. But also we took up paddleboarding in quite a big way this year. We were interested in it previously, but again, we picked up another hobby. We've taken that pretty seriously. And again, just exploring loads and loads of different areas that, was because it was a form of exercise and you're able to go out and you're in your bubble because we did it together we lived in the same household. And obviously you're socially distanced because you're either on a river or a lake or whatever. But we've explored so many different areas, local areas that are just, honestly, you wouldn't know it from walking down a path or, driving past it. We've, explored so many different local areas, which is just incredible. And we honestly are, you don't realise that until you kind of get the opportunity, or you're kind of almost a little bit forced into it. Because like I said, Johnny, otherwise you make yourself busy by doing those other things that we, like I said before, taken for granted previously. But so yeah, so for me, it's very similar. is actually being able to just use your time in a certain way. And for me, another thing as well, is because I am working from home, I haven't got the travel and the expense of traveling to work and all of that. And again, just saving a bit of money, being able to kind of have a bit more time at home. I can, wake up a little bit later because I'm not a morning person normally. And just being at home and just being able to be there and do stuff from home a bit more. So yeah. What about you, Sam?
Just before I speak about my stuff, but do you think the paddleboarding stuff, do you think you would have done that if we hadn't have gone into lockdown, like as much as you have?
Probably. Well, yeah, two things. Probably yes, we probably would have done it, but definitely not as much as we have. I think because otherwise, we would have probably around about 50% of our time that we would have done it, where we would have gone out like on a weekend or even on the evenings and stuff. So I either met Jess from work and stuff, and we go after. There might be times that we would have done that, but probably not as much as we have done, or taking it as seriously as we have done, because it's just not normally you fill your time with other things, right? So but yeah, I don't think we would have taken it as big as we have done, but that's actually given us that new hobby, but also as well, it's something that we can actually go in because we love it so much now that we're going to continue to do it in the future. So
Ange, what about you, mate? What's the positives?
I think massive positive is that last year I bought my own place, moved. That was obviously a big step, and then launched another business. It kind of all just boiled into one though. It wasn't one particular thing. It was like a sequence of things that happened over time. And another thing is just being able to, there's been a lot of lows throughout this 11 months. And I think one thing is positive is that I've always been able to get myself back out of them. And I'm not afraid to talk about like my lows and, the shit times that people have and I have. But I'm happy to talk about it because I think it's important to talk about it. But just getting yourself out of that and getting yourself back to where you should be and cracking on with life and doing things and getting up in the mornings and, not staying in bed and stuff like that. I know a load of people that have done that and it's just not done well for their mental health. So I think that was just an important thing. And just having that thing to focus on, like having that other business that I launched in September last year, just having that to focus on and basing it on values and morals was a real positive experience for me. And it still is. So yeah, those are probably my most biggest.
Huge positives.
I mean, yeah, absolutely massive. You got to think that, people that the biggest milestones really is kind of, buying your first place, kind of doing all that. But you've done all that in, like you said, really towards the end of the year, you're kind of moving into your own place, setting up your own business, and, running that from the place, not only just living by yourself and having that, a lot of alone time really, because you haven't got somebody else to kind of bounce on, so you've had to adapt quite a lot, going from either living in London or being at your family home and then now living on your own.
I mean, I had nothing else to do anyway, so it was a bit like I might as well do something. But no, on a serious note, yeah, I think it's just kind of, I think if anyone's listening to this and they do live alone by themselves, like, don't get me wrong, it is tough. Like sometimes you just kind of wake up in the morning, you sit there and you're just like, or when you finish a full days of work and then you go sit on the sofa and you're just like, right, there's like literally no one to talk to. There's just no one around, and that loneliness is so easy and so quick to set in. But at the same time, do realize that I remember in the first lockdown, I was making a point of speaking to 5 people on FaceTime a day, whether it be for 30 seconds, a minute, an hour, whatever it might be. And just that in itself makes you feel like you've been sociable, like you've been actually contacting and speaking to people about stuff. It doesn't matter what you're speaking about, just speak to someone. And it's kind of the same thing which I've got. So like the business I launched, like I'm out seeing people. Luckily, I'm able to still do that. But at the same time, it is hard. It is hard, but proud that I just got through it really.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one. So I want you to name or talk about your lowest point between March and now, and how you got yourself out of that low point. So, Sandra, I'm going to start with you first, mate.
So it
The
was
lowest point and how you took yourself out of that.
So I think it was April, end of April last year. I can't remember the exact date, but I was living back at home with parents and family and stuff. That's not easy in itself, like for starters, especially for a single guy. So just living at home with parents. I think there was one point where obviously I went on to furlough from my previous day job, and obviously had my other business which wasn't doing too well at that time, and I was just getting myself in a rut. I remember going down to my local park and just sitting there and just being like, what the hell was going on? And like it was absolutely pissing down with rain, and I was just sat there just like bawling my eyes out, and I was just like a proper burnout, and I didn't really know what was going on. I don't think I'll ever forget this either. And then I remember walking back up to my house, just going and literally went into bed because I was mentally exhausted. Just slept. This was like 11 o'clock in the morning, so I slept the whole day. Woke up in the evening, had some food, went back to bed, slept pretty much the whole night. And then I woke up the next day and I just started thinking to myself, like, what, you know, I'm in this situation. How do I get myself out of it? What do I need to do in order for myself to get back to where I need to be? And I just started slowly implementing these things just in life, like, you know, start getting up early, start doing fitness, start going for a run. All of these things have started slowly building. But I tell you what, that was the hardest point I think I've ever had to get out of. And then look what happened. April, May, June, July, October, moved into my own place. September, launched my business. Like, so it didn't happen overnight, but it was a hard pill to swallow for sure.
Matt, what about yours, buddy?
Yes, for me, I think was probably the lowest point is, well, two things really, is that, I mean, I'm, you know, love my friends, love my family and everything else. I'm a very sociable person. So actually being able to have that interaction, you know, with everybody, just going to see, you know, my family, you know, moved away. They're about an hour away now from us. And seeing them, you know, I would see them once a month at least, you know, and even more when they live, you know, closer. But yeah, so probably about once a month. And we were talking on the phone the other day, and we were saying that actually I've probably seen them about 4, maybe 5 times. Yeah, maybe 4 times this year. And that's literally in between like lockdowns. And I think one of those times was actually just before the lockdown, was around my brother's birthday, at the end of March. Before we went into lockdown, I think it was actually the day before the national lockdown started. So that was one. And then I've seen him 3 times since. And that's in between the kind of lockdown times, you know. And that's it, you know. And that for me is a bit of a downer. And obviously seeing you guys and, you know, going to go and do stuff, and actually just going out and doing things. I think there was a time where I felt that, you know, this is it now. You can't sit and dwell about the times where you're kind of just you know that you can't see your friends, you can't go and see your family. And there was a time where it was a bit like, and you felt a bit flat, you know. And but there's also as well is there's nothing that I could do about it. There was normally when you get something like that, you think, oh, actually, if I did this or I did an action or something, then I can try and resolve it. But there's nothing that you can do. So it's almost like actually just taking that element out and just enjoying what I do have. And I've got to be very thankful for that as well. And the second part really is that I felt very flat and almost guilty as well, that there was within the company I work for, car manufacturing company, and they had to make a lot of people redundant over this last year. Probably about a third of our workforce was made redundant, and some very good friends of mine were made redundant and were put, you know, at risk for, you know, they're renting or they've got a mortgage and other things to pay for, and they're all made redundant, you know. And some hadn't been there very long, some had been there a long time, but some hadn't been there very long at all. And it was, even though I was still potentially at risk, and I wasn't made redundant, thankfully, but I felt guilty that I wasn't, you know, I wasn't made redundant, but I felt guilty that they had been, and that I was almost helpless that I couldn't do stuff. And there was a point where I felt very low, and I felt so guilty that I was just really upset. And actually, it was a time when I was sat here on this sofa here, and I just thought, I just felt really down. And that exact time, this man called me, Johnny called me and said, "You're right, mate, how's things?" And I'm like, "You're literally, it's bad." But how? I broke down because I just felt so bad that I was like, there's nothing I could do, and I mean, I was still at risk at this point, but yeah, it was quite a low point for me, that I just felt that I was just felt a little bit helpless really on certain things like that. But again, I've got to say that I'm very thankful of the things that I do have. But yeah, it would have been a very different situation if I wasn't. So, what about you, mate? What's your?
I think for me, on Mondays, I struggle with Mondays. Mondays are my down days. I don't know what it. Tuesday, rest of it's fine. I think it's going from probably seeing over 100 odd people today from classes to one-to-ones, seeing probably 6 people a day. Would say I'm probably very sociable and talk to anyone and anyone really, and I find that really hard because I thrive off social interaction. I'm not really a home person, not really sit down and watch the TV. I can switch off. I switch off when I'm out with my mates or out with my family or out with my girlfriend doing stuff.
Yeah,
and that's one thing. I think it's just the boredom gets hold of you sometimes. But then I twist it around and think, do you know what? I'm not in hospital with a ventilator. I'm struggling to breathe and look at the news and stuff. So that's what I use to twist it around. And hearing from other people that I train what a difference the classes make, etc. That's how I spin it around. But one thing that I do when I'm feeling like that is probably just take myself out of work. There was actually last week I actually cancelled a client because my head was not in it. I had to, every time I deliver a session I give 100%. My head was, I don't know where it was just out. I can't even describe where it was. So I cancelled it. I took myself out and went for a massive long walk for about an hour and a half to reset, because you can't, if your head's not in it, there's no point keep battling it because you just dig low and make yourself feel absolute rubbish. So I just did the right thing, and I felt terrible for it because when I was letting down my client, it was only an hour before the class, hour before the session, and then I felt useless because I set high standards for myself. But then I thought, do you know what? I tell every single person to make time for themselves. When you really need it, you've got to take action. So that's what I did. So again, span it around on practice what I preached and span it around and looked after myself. But I was just buzzing for social interaction and having that banter and having that drink. It didn't even have to be a drink, just being around a load of people again, teaching classes and bouncing around like I do. I think that'll be a godsend when that happens.
Yeah, but also another thing to think about with that, and I agree with you, mate, is that we all three of us are very sociable people, and we'll talk to anyone that gives us the time. But the thing is, again, we've got to be thankful for that, but also thankful that we have these types of means of communication. We can still see, we can do video calls, and we can do Zoom quizzes and all that kind of stuff, just to kind of and that was the kind of the socializing on a Saturday night and Friday night and things like that we were able to do those types of things and have a bit of a laugh with friends and things. Imagine if this was when we were younger, 20, 30 years ago, you didn't have this stuff. It was you had a Nokia, or you had a Motorola flip phone, and that was probably when I was 10, so it's back when I was a kid, if this all happened then, you wouldn't have been able to do it, so you've got to be thankful for that, right?
Yeah, 100%.
There was a point, Johnny, you just made about when you are feeling demotivated or low, you need to take time out for yourself. It's such a good point. If you're in a really shit mood and you're just really downbeat and just unmotivated and just don't want to do anything, you do not want to spread that to other people. Just be mindful that just to take that time out and just relax. Just do you for a little while, get yourself back to normal, and then go again. Yeah. Very good point.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah. And actually being aware of that type of thing, and actually saying, you know, you could have quite happily, you know, done that session with that client, and what's the knock-on effect of you not being in the zone and you being yourself with that client? How that client could have just gone, Johnny seemed really off today, it wasn't the same kind of session I've had before, and what potential knock-on that could have had, rather than just going, do you know what, I'm human. Give me, you know, let's reschedule this for another couple of days, and then I'll be good. I just need a bit of time, you know. And we've spoke about it in previous podcasts and things like that as well, you know, over this last year, talking about burnout and talking about, Sanjay, you obviously said about your one of last year. You know, it happens with everyone. You know, we might be people that might be mindful or kind of like generally are quite positive people, but it happens to everybody, and it affects people in very different ways. But also, it's like I say, it's taking something and taking the action of going, I'm going to call that client and say, I'm not 100%, and I just need a bit of time to myself, and just take that time to do whatever you need to do. You know, just distract yourself by not dwelling in that thing that's going around your head. You know, sometimes for me, it's like, you know, okay, I'm 34, but I play video games and I do, you know, or you do that type of thing, just to kind of distract yourself from actually, you know.
You say you're 34, but who cares if you're 34, 44? Age really doesn't bother me at all. People get shit scared if they turn 30, 40, 50. I don't get it. Like, you do what makes you happy. You love playing. You love sitting at the wheel, mate, in your room. Like, just like, Matt's at the wheel, see you later. He's there for an hour racing on Gran Turismo. But do you know what, mate? It makes you happy, so who cares? So I think that's a clear message. Like, do what makes you happy. Doesn't matter what other people think of what.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? So
that's what I'm saying. You know, it's you know, do what you need to do to make you happy, or to distract you from that, you know, whatever stresses or anything that's going on in your life at the moment. Very much so. You know, that industry is blown up now because of people having the time to do that type of thing, and using that as a release, you know. So yeah, definitely.
That's a very nice little recap of the last 11, 12 months, 100%. I think we're going to be bringing out a couple of more podcasts, but hopefully with a few guests, hopefully with anything. If you're listening to this podcast and you've got something on your mind or a subject that you would love us to break down, then give us a shout and we'll happily do that. I think we're going to go away and think about how what subjects to approach. We're not going to bang on about COVID all the time, but also other stuff as well, because I think we've all got our different opinions, but I think we're on the same page, all three of us. So so if you've got any other subjects of topics or anything like that, then give us a message. We'll be really appreciated if you could do that. Lads, have you got anything else?
No, I was just going to say that same thing, really, of kind of, you know, again, you know, with this, you know, bringing back the podcast and everything else, I think it's massively helped with us, and again, hopefully people listening has helped you kind of understand that you're not alone on these types of things. And again, we will be doing that. It will be a kind of a mixed bag of things that we're talking about in this kind of season, but we'll try and keep it fairly regular. Again, obviously we've all got work and everything else to get in the way, but we'll try and keep it regular. And as Johnny said, you know, if there's anything that is anything that's going through your mind, or anybody else that you know that could potentially help, then happily to discuss it and talk through it. So but again, just to kind of finish off here as well, guys, it's really good to see you boys and have a catch up over this last few minutes that we've been talking. You know, it's been good to see your faces and talk again. It's good.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Been a while. It has.
Been a while, mate.
Exactly. But
hopefully you enjoyed that, and hopefully you enjoyed my voice clips on the podcast WhatsApp chat. It took me a while to perform those. Oh dear. Right, lovely to see you, boys.
And you, and thanks everybody. Thanks for listening, and see you soon. Thank you.
Guys.
Bye.